This evening, I want to welcome a true artist to the show, the writer of all writers, brilliant human being, great music, and just an all-around awesome guy. He paints amazing pictures with his words. Please give it up and show some love for Ira Marlowe. How are you?
I'm great. That's way too kind. Thanks a lot.
Oh man, it's the truth though. Definitely. Well, the world, tell everyone who you are. Who's Ira Marlowe?
I'm a singer-songwriter living in Berkeley, California. I write all kinds of songs, been doing this for decades, and I'm
Yeah.
still going at it.
Yeah, you're pretty good too. You are above the standards. I tell some writers that are starting out, I'm like, listen to this guy.
Thank you.
He is amazing. You could learn a lot. You are an excellent musician, but you are an exceptional writer. You actually make other writers take notes. Is it in your blood? Meaning, was that a gift? Were you born with it, or did you develop it as life started happening for you?
A little bit of both, I mean, I teach songwriting, and anybody who teaches any kind of art knows you can't teach talent.
Absolutely.
No, but you can take talent and you can make it better, and you can bring things out of people. And definitely my writing has evolved over time. But I remember being, 10, 12 years old and listening to songs and thinking, I can do this,
Yeah.
or at least I should be able to do this. I just had a
Right.
feeling that it was something I could do.
Wow. Definitely. That's beautiful, man. What encouraged your musical abilities?
Almost nothing. By which I mean, I hate to say this, but my parents are both gone now, and they did their best,
Oh
but they
wow.
were not the kind of parents who like said you got to have piano lessons and you got to do this. They were more like the sort of go play in the street. We got our own problems, parents, and
Oh, okay. Wow.
so I had to beg for guitar lessons, and finally got them when I was like 12,
Mhm.
and even then I was not encouraged. I was discouraged,
Oh wow.
throughout most of it. My dad finally came around, after a certain point, and was wound up being very supportive in
Okay.
the end. But no, it was kind of a tough battle, and I would have made different decisions and probably better decisions, frankly, had I had some wisdom from my parents who wanted to help me instead of sort of fight against me and be convinced that what I was doing was a disaster waiting to happen.
Okay. Well, sometimes it's like that, and then later on down the line they see the bigger picture. But it's yeah, music is deep like that. How long has music and entertainment been something that you really wanted to do?
Um, it's funny. I was thinking about that. I loved it. I started playing guitar, like I said, when I was like 13.
Hmm.
Um, I joined my first band, this cover band, when I was 18, with these like old guys in their mid 20s.
Oh wow.
And I still didn't take it that seriously. What made me take it more seriously is the first real band I started after that doing my own songs.
Hmm.
This is in Richmond, Virginia, became instantly popular. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Wow.
overnight, we had, three of us, and everybody had their own sort of charisma, and um, and that's what really made me say, "Oh God, this is going to happen. This could really happen."
Okay.
And we went out to Los Angeles. We did a bunch of really stupid stuff,
Wow.
and it wound up being a complete disaster. But I was kind of in from that point on. I was, if only to prove to my parents that I wasn't an idiot and I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of like that going west, that story that you told. Yeah, I was
That's
listening
exactly.
to that. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Name some of the great influences that you took a liking to musically, whether it be an artist or a band that the world knows, or perhaps an artist that not many people know.
Yeah. I think so much of I teach my students that so much of what we do comes from our unconscious minds, and it's
Hmm.
stuff we've absorbed. So I mean, I grew up listening to what my parents played, and a lot of it was like
Hmm.
folk music, and a lot of it was like Broadway stuff, show tunes.
Wow.
And
That's
there's no question, a lot of the show tune stuff is in my music and always has been.
hmm.
Um, but I mean, I'm old enough that I first wanted to play guitar to learn how to play Don McLean's American Pie. You know,
Oh, okay. Wow.
and I,
Yeah.
and I was attracted to that because it had like 17 different verses and all these stories going on in it, and you never quite
Yeah.
understood them. And you wanted to know more, you know. But then in high school, I met some people who were like not folkies at all. They were much more rockers.
Okay. Yeah.
Discovered David Bowie, who I
Oh
got
man.
totally into, and Led Zeppelin and things like that, and Hendrix. You know, a big influence at that time was a friend who was my age, had been playing guitar since he was 8.
Ooh.
And by the time he was like 10 or 12, he was a total prodigy. He could play anything
Oh,
off of
wow.
Hendrix, Clapton, or, you know, or Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
And so he taught me some guitar stuff that has stayed with me to this day, you know,
Oh,
you know, and he was also influential in getting me to listen to more rock and roll stuff.
okay. Yeah. So that kind of broadened your horizons and probably your writing and all of that, and
You know,
just
I've
kind of
always,
open.
you know, part of if it's a problem, you know, I've always written a lot of different kind of songs, you know,
Mhm.
and when I was flirting with record deals, one of
Okay.
the complaints was always, well, you know, he really needs to focus on this or this or this because it's all about marketing with the record labels. And they want to know
Always. Yeah.
who you are and this little thing you do. Um, you know, but I loved everything from, you know, soul and funk to Steely Dan to, you know,
Mhm.
stuff, you know, all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great way to be. Um, what accomplishments are you most proud of when it comes to your music and your writing?
You know, I've now written like 3 musicals. The third one is actually just won some award and had a couple readings online with Zoom because everything's so crazy now.
Hmm.
And I'm still working on that. I'm proud of those because they're bigger. You know, it's a big, huge undertaking. The first two, one was a feature length animation for kids, which I still really like, but I basically went to all this trouble and started sending it out, and people said, yeah, this is really good, but you do realize that every place in the world that does feature length animation develops it in house. You
Hmm.
can't possibly sell a script to anybody. It was like,
No.
oops, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And but what I'm sort of most proud of, and this is sort of the flip side of never getting the big record deal I wanted, you know, is that I've done a lot of different stuff. You know, I've written plays, I've written musicals, I've written comedy songs, you know, and in that sense, I've been totally true to myself, you know, and
Yeah.
true to
Yeah.
all the different ideas I had and all the things I wanted to try. And one thing that I know, I mean, there's somebody who told me about a conversation he had with a famous recording artist whose name I will not mention. But
Okay. Okay.
basically, he said, you know, the reason my music, the reason every album is basically the same
Mhm.
is because it's not just me. There's a whole industry behind me of people who, if this record doesn't sell, they lose money, they
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
even lose their job, blah, blah, blah. So there's all this pressure on these people, you know, as celebrated as they might be, to keep doing the same damn thing, you know, in various ways, over and over and over. And and the one thing that's good about rotting in obscurity is I can do whatever I want. You know, I wrote a song a couple years ago called Terra Nova, and it's basically about the fact that the chorus basically says nobody's listening, nobody's watching. You know, you're free. You know,
Mhm.
life is your playground. Just have fun with it.
Just do what you want to do. Do what you love. Definitely.
That's what I'm trying to do, and I'm still trying to get somewhere. You know, but you know, because I'd like to make some money from this, and yeah, I'd like to be more recognized. You know, and that's something I battle with because a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't even think about that. You know, but you want to have an audience. You want to feel like when you write something, it's
Yeah.
somewhere. You
You
know.
do. Absolutely. Yeah. I know exactly where you're coming from with that. Um, okay. Name some of your most favorite collabs that you've done with other artists.
Yeah, I wish I'd done more collabs to tell you the truth. I did 4 shows. There's a company in the San Francisco area called the San Francisco Mime Troupe,
Okay.
and it's the worst named theater troupe in the world because they don't do silent mime at all.
Oh.
They formed in like 1959, and at that time, mime just meant big, broad comedy.
Mhm.
You know, and what they do is political theater, really sort of over the top, lefty political theater.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
got to work with them for 4 shows. I wrote, you know, the songs for 4 shows with them, and it's a crazy environment because, I mean, the average Broadway musical is like 6 to 10 years in development before it hits the stage, and we would get together between May and the beginning of July, like basically 2 months, and not even that, without even a script going into it, you know, and write a musical.
Mhm.
You know, so it's a really intense thing, and it sort of drove me crazy because there never was a script, and I was constantly throwing away this song I thought was great because the story changed and blah
Mhm.
blah blah. But it's just great to work with, you know, with talented, dedicated people in that kind of an environment, and I really, really liked it, you know, and really, really got learned a lot from it.
Yeah. That's sounds like it was a really great opportunity and it was a learning experience. Definitely.
And it's sfmt.org. You can check them out. They right now, because of the pandemic, they're doing a bunch of radio plays.
Oh, wow.
More
Oh,
different movies for your ears they're doing.
yeah, that's interesting. That's something to definitely check out, everybody. You hear that?
sfmt.org.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm sure you got tons of great stories about being on the road, performances that you've done with other people that you played with. Explain a little bit.
Most of my great stories are horror stories. You know, I mean, I haven't been on the road that much. You know, this is sort of off the topic, but not really. Right now, I've got this agent in LA I just signed a deal with who's trying to shop my songs, which is sort of the first big push I've made in a long time to actually really make something happen.
Ooh, congratulations.
And the point is that most artists are not really good at promoting themselves, you know.
No, not at all.
I'm like totally ADD, and I tried to put some tours together, and I literally sent out, this is back in the days when you mailed cassettes in the mail, you know.
Man,
And I would send out like 30, 40 kits, you know, and I'd get back 2 gigs, 2 weeks apart, 500 miles apart. And it's like, how does anybody do this? You know? But I mean, I've strolled between tables at a Howard Johnson's with my guitar, you know.
Oh, wow.
Crazy gigs like that. My first band, The Rage, my first real band, we had a gig at this place in Fredericksburg, Virginia called the Butch Cassidy Lounge.
Okay.
Some weird agent booked us in there. We were like broke, we were fighting, we thought we might break up. And we got 5 nights in this place. This is great. And we go in there, it's got like wagon wheels on the wall and these stone rednecks everywhere we turn. And we were like totally inappropriate. So we're up there, we're like, how am I gonna get through this? And we were just, after we go to get paid, the manager says, I'm not gonna pay you. You're rehearsing on stage, I'm gonna sue your agent.
Wow.
So I go to our bass player and I say, man, he's not gonna pay us. We should fucking torch this place. Bass player goes over to the guy and says, man, can I curse? He says,
Yeah, go ahead.
You fuck with The Rage, your place goes up. Next thing we knew, Peter, the bass player, are in the back of a police car. Okay, that's when I first learned there are no door handles on the inside of a police car. It's a little rolling prison, you know.
Pretty much, yeah.
First, our drummer was black, and he managed to talk to the one brother in all of Fredericksburg who was a cop.
Okay, cool.
And somehow he talked him into letting us go. We promised we'll never come back, you know. So he gave us literally like half an hour to get out of town. And so lots of misadventures, lots of funny stories, you know. I think in the end, even if you're a U2 or somebody really huge, in the end, the stories you tell are those kinds of stories. You know, it's not about a great gig you played at the Fillmore. You know, it's about the hilarious situation, you know, where somebody, you know, got sick at the Chinese restaurant, you know, and threw up on stage, you know, just. So I got plenty of those stories.
Oh man, shit! Don't we all in the music industry like that? I mean, just crazy. What do you think you could have done better or differently when it comes to your craft, your music, your writing? This question is kind of like if I knew then what I know now.
A whole lot. I mean, since, you know, especially this new musical I'm working on, I don't know if you're a Hamilton fan or something, but I finally saw Hamilton a year or so after it came out and was just totally blown away by it, you know.
All right.
And I kind of wish I'd done what he did. You know, he knew he wanted to go into musical theater. He went to college for musical theater. He developed a musical in college. That wound up going to Broadway. Next thing you know, he's writing Hamilton, you know. Yeah. And I was a rebellious kid who did the opposite of what anybody told me, you know. And one thing I will say is I used to have this notion as a songwriter that there's no point in really pushing it to try to write songs because, and it was true, anytime I'd sort of sit down and usually try to write something, it would be crap. And I said, you know, they come to me, I generally write, you know, 10 or 12 good songs a year, you know. At a certain point, maybe it was from the San Francisco Mime Troupe, where I had to write all these songs really fast. I was turning stuff out overnight. I realized that's not true, you know. And I did something in 2016 where I challenged myself to write and record a new song every week.
Oh, okay.
You know? And so I wish I'd sort of looked at it much more as a craft than as an inspiration, you know. Because what I tell my students is inspiration, as far as I'm concerned, it's just another word for excitement. It means you stumbled on something and you go, wow, that's cool. And you want to work on it. You don't want to rest until you know, you just get totally wrapped up in it. And that happens from just stumbling around, looking for stuff, and just eventually you find that spark, One regret I have is around 20 years ago at this point, I had this record deal. It was a development deal, which basically means they give you money to go in the studio and record.
Mm-hmm.
If you like it, they give you a deal. And the guy heard my music. This is a guy named Lenny Walker, who's a legend. He'd signed Tom Waits and
Wow.
Randy Newman and all these people,
Yeah.
And he heard my stuff and liked it. He heard this song and he said, yeah, I like it. Sounds like a male Sheryl Crow.
Oh.
Now, what I should have done is listen to a bunch of Sheryl Crow records and write a bunch of new songs.
Mm-hmm.
Deliberately say, okay, you want a male Sheryl Crow? Here it is,
Right, exactly.
I would, I didn't even think about doing that, and I think it would have been a good idea because whatever I did still would have come out being me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, like I said, I think so much creativity, it's unconscious. You hear stuff, it gets stored in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I would just, I also, here's a big one. I got my first 4-track right when my band The Rage broke up.
Okay.
One of those cassette 4-tracks.
Oh yeah, I had one. Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, this is the greatest thing. I don't need anybody.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a real downside to that because I've spent a lot of time making recordings, making demos, and I've gotten to be better at various instruments. I'm a pretty good bass player now. I'm okay on keyboards, and I can, but it's not the same as collaborating with people.
Right.
Being in a real studio, playing live with a real engineer and a real producer, and I used to look at people, raising $10,000, to make a record and say, I can do it myself without,
Yeah.
There's something to that. And the fact that I write so many songs, it's great that I do have the power to just jump in and record them right away.
Mm-hmm.
But I sometimes think maybe I would have been better off without this and just having to, collaborate more with other people,
Okay.
So I don't know. The thing about home recording is you can just sort of stew in your own juices too much.
Yeah, you can, and you kind of get stuck in that realm, and you don't come out to hear what the other side has to offer. So sometimes it can be a gift, but then a curse at the same time, So
Exactly.
I know how that definitely can be. Let the world know what you have been working on lately.
Funny, lately what I'm working on, I hooked up with this lawyer who's pushing my songs, and first thing he said before we even had any sort of deal going, he listened to it. He said, okay, put me on hold, went to my website, listened to a bunch of songs, came back and said, wow, you're a really good writer, but why don't you find a local producer or something to collaborate with, and do stuff that's more contemporary sounding.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, frankly, if I collaborate with a producer, I'd rather be somebody in LA who's already got something going on.
Right. Absolutely.
Here in the Bay Area, people aren't as connected to what's going on, and it's, so anyway, so what I've been doing, speaking of stewing my own juices, is I've been sitting in my studio making new demos, new demos of my old songs.
Okay.
Modern hits, and using drum loops and using all kinds of stuff, and now I'm bringing in singers, because whatever you can say about my voice, I'm never going to sound like the new current thing,
Okay, well,
that's
that's probably a good thing, though. You definitely don't want to sound like.
Well, I'd just sound like I'm a big poser if I tried,
Yeah, exactly. Because what's already in you can't duplicate it, and it's there for you.
Well, the problem is the music business. They want to duplicate it. I mean, it's gotten worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
I called a bunch of lawyers trying to find this guy, trying to find somebody who would shop me and be excited about what I'm doing. Most of them I talked to, in fact, all of them I talked to except him, said, you can't do that anymore. Nobody cares about the music. All they look at is your numbers on Facebook and Instagram. If you got enough numbers, they'll take it. And I can't believe, I don't know. So what I'm saying is they do care about formulas. They do care about, and right now what I'm trying to do is look at it like a game and think, okay, if I can write a song every week, then I can look at what these people are looking for and try to come up with something like that. The problem is, which is what I found, I did this same, I almost said made this same mistake. I did this same thing a long time ago when I moved to New York after my band The Rage broke up. And I had my little 4-track, and I was gonna write songs and sell them, for hits.
Mhm.
And I was trying to write songs for people like Pat Benatar, and stuff like that. And the truth is, I didn't listen to that shit. I didn't even like that shit.
Mhm.
So if you try to write songs for those people, it's like you don't even know if they're any good because you think it's all crap. You just turn it. And so it's pretty tough to succeed doing stuff you don't love. So what I'm trying to do is mostly take songs I already wrote that I know I believe in,
Mhm.
just dress them up as something a little more modern and see what happens.
Well, yeah, definitely. That's a great idea. Definitely.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, it will. It will. Um, what is your next move? Let the world know.
Well, I got this music I'm trying to get going on stage. I'm sort of letting it sit for a while because the second reading, I got a bunch of advice about it, which was kind of confusing. Something's one way, something which can drive you totally crazy.
Mhm.
I've got a good friend who's looking at it, and she's going to sort of come up with some ideas possibly for it.
Okay.
Um, I'm really working with this guy in LA, trying to get some songs pitched, trying to get some songs cut. Part of, I have this huge, ridiculous body of work. I've got 3 musicals. I've got, a play. I've got another play I'm working on. I've got a novel in the drawer, all this stuff. And actually my pet project of all of them maybe, which I forgot to even mention,
Mhm.
I've got this song called Brother Time,
Okay.
which is about just the very sort of mortal race against time we all feel we're up against, especially as we get a little bit older.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. I know it.
and what's funny is I sang it a couple times, and I was at some gig, and this guy named Tommy Banks, this African American singer, came up to me and said, "Man, I'd like to take a crack at that song." And I said, "Sure."
Okay.
So he came to my studio. He sang it with my existing track, but like in his own way, in his own key, just figured out a way, And I was like, I literally did not play that song myself for about a year. It's like, that's yours, man. I can't
Oh,
touch what
wow. Wow.
you know.
Oh man.
And
That's
I wound up going back to it, and I still do it. And people like, but the point is, we became friends, and I came up with this idea because it was something we joked about. So I wrote this screenplay called Brother Time about
okay.
these 2 old characters based on Tommy and myself.
Oh,
The
okay.
record industry says are way too old. So the character is me, who, and the thing is like this old sort of nebbishy Jewish guy. I always saw him played like Billy Crystal or somebody, who gets this idea to find some really good looking kid from the hood
Mhm.
to front on a video to lip sync.
Okay.
Get that out
Milli
there.
Vanilli.
No. But since the kid's hot and good looking, suddenly the world will pay attention to the same exact music.
Mhm.
So, and then the thing gets out accidentally, and the whole thing goes viral, and it goes crazy from there. I believe in this script, but it's so one of my dreams is just if I could get anything going, like with this agent, you know, there's the old ongoing story of the overnight success that was 30 years in the making, or 10 years in the making, whatever.
Mhm.
My hope is if I get one thing going, suddenly people will think I'm cool and I can show them all this other stuff.
Yeah, and all the other stuff will fall into suit. That's usually how it works. I mean, in my opinion, I think you are on the brink of that right now.
Well, I appreciate your faith. I would like to think so too. I'm trying to be as positive as I can.
Because I'm sure you've touched a lot of other people with your writing and moved a lot of other people besides me.
Thank you. And that ultimately is the most rewarding thing.
Hmm.
When I hear people say that, there's a guy I know who lives in Czechoslovakia, or I guess it's now called the Czech Republic.
Hmm.
And he moved there like 20 years ago because of a song I had. A song
Oh,
that
wow. See, that's what I mean.
he,
Life altering.
yeah.
That's amazing to be able to do that. Not many people can touch people with words. And so that's, I mean, if I could say anything, I mean, you probably have already reached, you never really reach your pinnacle in your opinion, but you've changed lives still. And so that's a most positive thing. So you could
Yeah,
take
it's
that.
good, and I try to remember that.
Mhm.
It's just it's pretty weird. I'm like trying to play like a Facebook Live concert here, and there's nobody there in the room. And you're trying to act like they're there.
I mean, yeah, but how it is.
How it is.
Yeah. For my last question, tell everyone where they can hear your music and how they can contact you.
Uh, my name, Ira Marlowe with an E at the end, iramarlowe.com. There's a bunch of stuff on there. There are videos
Yeah.
and links to a bunch of other stuff. That's the easiest thing to remember. I'm also on Bandcamp. I've got like 5 or 6 different sites on Bandcamp.
Okay.
I've got a kids music on Bandcamp called Brainy Tunes. I've got spooky songs. That's also one of my favorite things I've ever done. I've got 2 albums of kids CDs. They're all about monsters and werewolves and zombies and boys with 2
Wow.
heads. And
Adventurous.
it's fun, and it's got like sound effects. They really are like movies for your ears, which is what I've always liked to do. And I had such a blast doing that. And I just signed up for some company that basically tells you what the industry is looking for,
Okay.
and you send them their stuff, and they send it out. So I sent like 5 or 6 of those songs to them.
Oh my.
Because there was a place that said they're looking for Halloween songs like Monster Mash.
Yeah, yeah. And we in that season now. So,
Coming along, yes.
you know.
I'm hoping something comes of that because I love that stuff.
Yeah, it will. It will definitely put it into the universe, and it happens. It's there. You are there. This amazing artist, everyone. This concludes my interview with Ira Marlowe. Awesome singer, songwriter, musician, and human being. Man, it's been great having you on.
Well, and I just want to thank you for what you do. And like I said, I'm old enough to remember when radio used to play. You'd hear the Spinners, and then you'd hear Springsteen, and then you'd hear Joan Armatrading, then you'd hear a country song like Kenny Rogers,
Yep.
And people got exposed to all this different music, and it's just the same thing that's happening politically. Everybody's locked in their own little world, so convinced they're right about this tiny little bandwidth of the spectrum.
Right.
So it's beautiful that you're just exposing people to a lot of different stuff they wouldn't ordinarily hear.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. It's basically all the genres that I listened to growing up, and I refused to stay in a box. So and everybody, it's just so many brilliant artists out here, from every genre, and I think that the world should see it, and that it's more like an outlet for me to give to these artists so that they can be seen on plateaus where otherwise they wouldn't always be seen on.
Exactly.
So, that's what it's about. It's always about the indie artist. It's about the writer. It's about the musician, the comic, the actor. It's all about the art and the entertainment,
Fantastic.
And I always try to tell people that. But, man, thank you so much, man, for allowing me to do this interview.
It's my pleasure completely.
Okay. I will see you soon. Talk to you later.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Okay, we have come to the end of the interview. It's been a great one with Ira Marlowe. Join us next week as we interview more great independent artists. Feel free to subscribe to everything that you see at the end of the show. I am Jamal Jupitur, and until next time.